Welcome, D-Wolf Cobra's Multimedia. It's me, Mr. Cheney, with another brilliant tutorial. This is part 3. That's right, part 3 of our kinetic typography project. In part 1, I showed you how to do the font style, and the size of each font. In the second tutorial, I showed you the animations for each of those fonts. And now, the last, and yes, the best for last, is how to make this thing pretty and move and make it into a video and all that good stuff. So we're going to go find a background, go to Google Images. I'm going to choose something simple like a metallic background so that the colors of my words will show up right. You can do whatever background that you want, class appropriate of course. So I'm going to try this one first. It might be a little too dark for the words that I've got, but I'm going to try it so I can copy the image and I'm going to paste it into my slide. And I'm going to resize it so it covers the entire slide, and then I'll right click on the picture and send this to the back so that my words will be on top of my background. And once I do that, I'll be able to see if this is going to work. I don't think it's going to, because step by step and typography are also in black. Yeah, so that doesn't look so great. So I'm going to go find a different background, even though I really like this one. Another fix could be I could change the color of step-by-step in typography, but I'm going to go find a different background instead. So I'm going to trend more towards maybe a gray. This one would be kind of cool, but I still say I want to do something more silver, more metallic. This one's maybe a little too dark. This one's got a little too much texture to it. Let's find one that's going to work. So I'm clicking tools here so that I can find large images so that the picture is clear. I want my background not to be pixelated or blurry, so that's why I'm changing the size to large. This one looks great. I'm going to copy that image. I'm going to take it over to my PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to do Control V to paste. I'm going to cover the slide. I'm going to right click and I'm going to send this to the back. This is much better. So now I've got a cool background. I've got my 5 words or phrases, step-by-step, guide, for, kinetic, and typography. So I'm going to hold down my Shift key as I click all of these, and by doing this it selects all of the words at the same time so that I can move them all at the same time rather than moving them one at a time. Okay, so now that I've got my words where I want them, I'm going to be adding my first name, I'm going to be adding my last name, and then I'm going to add a shape, and then I'm going to add our logo, and I'm going to make animations for all of those things. So here we go. I made a word art for my first and last name. You can use just regular text box if you'd like, but I like these because they're 3D sometimes and textured. So I'm going to put my first name in one text box. And then I'm going to copy paste, and I'm going to make my last name with a separate text box because I want an animation that's different for my first name versus my last name. And what I'm going to do, and you can do the same thing, no problem copying me on this, but if you want to be a little more unique, you can do your own thing. But I'm going to have my first name fly in from the left, and then I'm going to have my last name fly in from the right at the same time. And I'm going to add an effect on the end that like lets them bounce a little bit like together, which is, you don't have to do that either. This is your project. But I like those little details. So I'm going to change the fill color of my last name so it's a little different than my first name. And so I'm going to go with this green on orange. So I got my first name in a text box. I've got my last name in a separate text box. So now let's animate. So I'm going to click animation. I'm going to click animation pane. I'm going to click fly in, and I'm going to make it from the left. And that's for my first name. I'm going to click this black arrow. Now I'm going to change the settings first. With previous, like everything else, I'm going to change the delay to a little bit longer than the last one because I want my last name to come in after typography. So I'm going to test this out. Everything's in order. Okay, my first name came in after typography. That's good. So now I'm going to do my last name, fly in. And I'm going to make it come in from the right by clicking Effect Options. And once again, I'm going to change the settings to with previous, and I'm going to change the delay to a little bit. Now I'm going to do it at the same time as my first name, so it does it at the same exact time. 1.75 delay. So let me test this out again. I like to test every time just so it looks the way I want it to look. So I've tested it, looks good. So now I'm going to change the settings so that I can get that bounce feature I was talking about. So I'll go over to the Effects tab, and right here you can do a smooth start, you can do a smooth end, or you can do the bounce. And I'm going to experiment with the duration of the bounce. And let's start with 0.21 and see what that looks like and see if I like it. That's okay, it's a little too subtle for me, so I'm going to increase the amount of time that the bounce is going to occur. So I'm going to up that from 0.21, and I'm going to double that to 0.4 something. And let's see if I like that better. So I've got it to the time, we'll press OK. And I like that a little better, so I'll do the same thing with my last name. Now that I know I like 0.42 rather than 0.21, I'll just make that change for this. So going to Effects, go to Bounce, dial it over to 0.41. So now I've got my first and my last name animation ready to go. And so the next thing I want to do, after I've tested everything out, is I'm going to make a shape outline animated around my name. So I'm going to insert a shape. And I think the shape I want is a circle this time instead of a square. Do any shape you like if you want to copy this. So I'm going to cover my first and last name with this shape. And the trick here is that you're going to take the fill color out so that you have just the outline. So we'll go up to Shape Fill Color and we will do no fill. And now we just have a faint outline, so I'll go to Shape Outline and I'm going to go to Weight. And that's the thickness of the line. I'm going to do the thickest line they'll give me. And now with that line, I'm going to animate it with something called Wheel. So I'll go to Animations. Wheel is in kind of the default ribbon there, so you don't have to go to More. And so now my name will be Circle. And I'm going to change it to with previous and do the delay the way I want it. I'm going to test everything out one more time, make sure it looks like the way I want it. And the very last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put our DeWolf Cobra logo in here, and I'm going to do a custom animation. So when you do a custom animation, you can make it go in any direction that you want. So I'll show you what that looks like. So on the assignment, I've put our logo. You can click on it, then right click and copy, put it in to your PowerPoint slide by Control V pasting, and you want to resize it and not resize the background and the logo because they were both selected. So I'm going to click outside of both of them, click just the logo, resize my logo to the size I want, put it where I want it to start, and then the custom animation is going to allow me to draw where I want it to go and where I want it to end. So I'll do a custom path. And I'm just going to start with a little path here and see if it ends up where I want it. If it bleeds off the slide, like if I go a little too far, which it looks like it might, yeah, so my logo went a little too far. So I could try to adjust it, or what might actually be a little easier is just to take that animation off and start again. But let's see if this will let me just adjust first. It's looking like it's giving me some problems. Try one more time. Not letting me adjust. So let's just do it again. So I'm going to go over to my animation pane. I'm going to click the black arrow and remove that, and I'm going to try again. So clicking on the logo, go to custom path, draw my path a little better so that my logo ends up where I want it and not off the edge of the page. So let's see if I did a little better job this time. I did. Perfecto. And so now I'm going to change the settings to with previous. I'm going to do my delay the way I want it. I think I'll put it at 2 seconds. I'm going to test everything out. So click at the very top. Oh, I'm going to do an effect option. Alright. So let's do timing. Oh yeah, I want to slow it down so it takes a little longer for it to go around the frame. So you do that. Now we pretty much have a completed animation, but I'm going to add one more animation to my logo. I'm going to add an emphasis one that teeters it at the end, just for one last added effect. I'm going to change the settings with previous, do my delays just like the others, and then I'll test from the beginning, step by step, then guide, then for, then kinetic, then typography, then my names come in, then the circle, then the logo, and we are good to go. And that is your final project.